Hello, everybody. Hey, guys. How's everybody? Oh, thank y'all for coming. Didn't give you a lot of notice, but I felt like, you needed to hear from me. And so let me just say this. We went through a little bit of a difficult time, last year in regard to, the teachers and service personnel, a lot of state employees, and through all that, at the end of the day, I go back to where I was in the very beginning. In the very beginning, on the first day of the state, I said we need to place education and let it be our centerpiece. First day of the state. And then all of a sudden, a lot of things started to happen. I tried to get through a 2% pay raise. Too much food fighting happened, and it incinerated. So the next go round, we came back to the table, and I basically tried to put together a way to get for sure the 2%, of which I really thought, that's the least we can do. You see, I'd gone around the state, and I'd done this listening tour for education. Now, the one thing I'm pretty daggum good at, guys, is I run a lot of different businesses, and I know when employees are motivated or when employees feel like they're beat down. I know when, the end product is not going to end well because we're all a people world. Now, in doing all that, I could see a group of people that felt like that they were not appreciated. Absolutely, those people were demotivated. They felt like there was some degree of hopelessness because they depended upon their benefits, the PEIA, and with the way the state was moving, and it could very well have happened that the only thing we could have done was gone back and said, well, we need to go to a 70-30 plan. That would have been catastrophic to those families. That's all there is to it. Their income, not necessarily fixed or frozen, but surely not high. And as the cost of their benefits rose, those benefits were just incinerating them. And so now, in all that, where we've come to. There's no point in me sitting here because some of you are going to say, that I'm bragging about where we've come to, which is not the truth whatsoever. But the reality is just this. I'm a guy that deals in facts. And the facts are things are a lot different today. Now, in all of that, and I think if your union leaders or the powers to be would just tell the gospel fact, Jim's the one that came to the table and said, we're going to do 5%. Nobody but Jim. And then I called the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate down, and I said, I know this is going maybe in a direction that's maybe a little difficult, but this is what I think we should do. Now, I've said it many times that the House jumped on board immediately and the Senate took a little longer. But at the end of the day, the Senate brought another component. They brought all the government employees with them. And that was good. That was really good. Now, so today, well, let's go back a couple of months or 3 months ago. I said we ought to do it again. We got the money to do it. These people deserve security in that the PEIA is not something that they go home at night and worry about nonstop. We don't have a complete fix for PEIA today, but we've got one solution that's going to give us a lot of comfort in putting $150 million to the side. Now, the reason all of you are here is just this. The reason that there's so much talk around our state, you know, the reason of the uncertainty of, well, where does the governor really stand? Do you mean to tell me this omnibus bill that's up there is the governor's bill? Well, it's not. It's not the governor's bill. You have the governor's bill. My bill was just as clean could possibly be. My bill said just do this. Give the 5% pay raise. Give it to all state employees. That was my bill. My bill didn't have with it all the bells and whistles of what we have today, and my bill was just not this. You know, I believe when you have the opportunity to give, you ought to give. You ought not give and put a receipt in the box. I mean, that's all there is to it. Now, can we make education better? No question. No question we can make education better. Are there tweaks and things we can do to make it better? There's no question we should do that. But what should be done today is this. My bill should be considered. My bill should be considered. And then you know, if we want to debate all the other issues along the way, debate them. Debate them and vote on them. You know, for crying out loud, you know, whether they be, you know, paycheck protection, of which I am absolutely adamantly against, you know, whether they be this severability of, you know, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, maybe I'm not. That's absolutely terrible, you know, and, you know, or maybe the adoption of statewide charter schools. I am absolutely against that. All we're doing is taking a state that's moving in a great direction, and all we're doing today is really just creating a mess when a mess doesn't need to be created. That's all there is to it. Now, I think that all state employees should receive the 5%, and by that being all state employees, all teachers, all service personnel, all state police. You know, that was the way that I sent this thing up. You know, there are things within the thinking of the body that can make things better. They can, you know, and I think we ought to always give the right to others to express their views and evaluate those views, and don't do it harshly, but do it in a good way. And if there's, and I'm sure there are things within that bill that maybe are things that should be adopted. But I just wish we would look at those issues individually and evaluate them that way. You know, I'm not going to go through every item in the world, but teachers being able to accrue sick leave, yeah, I mean, we ought to look at that, you know. We ought to look at this counselor time stuff, or the teacher's recommendation stuff, or, you know, there's so many different things, from school aid formula to on and on. The math teacher, you know, incentive stuff. Those could be really good things that we adopt and we move forward with. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I mean, you just think about this, and this just irritates the peanuts out of me. I mean, I've worked my ever-loving butt off, and it's a great big butt. I mean, it is a great big butt. You've known where I've stood all along. I have never done anything except tell you just the truth, just the flat truth. Our state, like it or not like it, is booming today compared to where we were. It's not booming. It's like a rocket ship that's taken off back double, triple. Now, can it do a lot better? Absolutely. We don't need uncertainty today, and we don't need to create a food fight for next to nothing. That's all there is to it. Now, The reason I'm here in front of you is just this, is I want you to always know that whether it be the Republicans on the Senate or the Democrats on the House or whomever it may be, you should give proper merit and respect to their ideas. You should. You absolutely should. You know, that's what this process is all about. But I'm here today in front of you because I don't want to be misunderstood. I want you to know where I stand. I mean, whether you're at, you know, the Waffle House or wherever it may be, I want you to know where Jim stands. Jim has never changed where Jim stands. I don't believe there ought to be a receipt in the box, and I absolutely don't believe this great state that has come as far as it can come needs to get divided again. That's all there is to it. We don't need that. You need to know where I stand. Over and over and over, you know, I say it just as bluntly as I can be. You know, you don't need to look and wonder where the governor stands. The governor will tell you where he stands. Now, I'll end by just saying this last thing. Don't think there's not good ideas coming from the, you know, from the Senate Republicans or whatever. There could be. And look at it open-mindedly. But as far as the paycheck protection, that's a no with me. As far as the non-severability, a no with me. As far as statewide charter schools all over, a no with me. We have not by any means perfected our public schools. And for crying out loud, we need to concentrate on our public schools. Now, does that mean never a charter school? Of course not. If it were so limited and everything, and it wasn't just opening Pandora's box, and it was something that we could try, and it would be maybe an idea of something that could help us, well, we ought to consider. But I am just telling you that from my standpoint, you needed to hear me. I'll try to answer your questions as best I can. Try not to get all down in the weeds and everything else. And for God's sakes, let's quit throwing rocks at one another and move forward. I just wish so much my bill would be considered, and this omnibus bill would be, you know, just out of the way for now. And if we want to look at certain aspects of it, we do, and go from there.
Are you know enough to veto that bill, Governor?
I'm sorry?
Are you know enough to veto that bill if it came through?
Well, first of all, I don't think it'll ever come through. You know. So y'all quit hollering here and everything. But I don't think it'll ever come through in its condition that it's in. And we still absolutely, we do need to let the House and the Senate, you know, we need to let the process go. That's all there is to it. But at the same time, you know where I stand. I've already said it.
Conversations with with both chambers. Have you had any conversations with the Senate President? And two-part question: have you had any conversations with the House side as far as what they're thinking with this bill?
I've had very, very, very limited conversations. You know, my people have been in conversation a lot and everything, but limited from just the standpoint of just this. I am a real respecter of the process. I mean, the process, we should always give merit to the process. And we should all know, there's no question, if I were to ask anybody, if I were to do a poll tomorrow, and I'd call every single person in West Virginia and I'd say, do you think education could be better in West Virginia? I bet you 99% of them would say yes. 99% would say yes. But at the same time, I really believe this. If you know, this is just what I think. Does that mean education's bad in West Virginia? Of course not. That's crazy to think that. But if I believe that if Billy's coming home from school and he's making A's and B's, and Sally's his school teacher, and Sally's breaking her neck, and we all love Sally, then as a whole, we as a community, we're not unhappy with education. We want it to be better. And all I say is let the process go and be fair. Whether you be union leaders or non-union leaders or whether you think education needs a complete makeover, be fair, be respectful. Let's try to tweak the good stuff out of it and make it better.
Governor, all due respect, I didn't hear an answer to Bob's question. I mean, if the bill comes through in its current form with paycheck protection, with charter schools, would you veto it or would you?
I would. I can't do that. The reason I would do that is just real simple. This is, you know, you're going to create a situation in a state that's doing great, and you're going to take all of the good that we're putting together and just ruin it, because the outside world is watching us every day. We want people to want to come here. We don't want to people aren't going to come here if we're fighting against one another all the time. They're not going to do that. Yes, sir.
Education savings accounts. You mentioned some other things you're against. Can you talk about that?
I'm probably not a fan of that and everything, but I am a fan of, you know, your some form of that, whether it be special ed or whatever it may be. I am a fan of that and everything. I don't know that I can get right behind the education savings accounts.
Governor, with the speed this bill is moving, there's a chance that you could veto it and it could conceivably come back and just hit simple majorities and come back to your desk. Would you hold up other pieces of Senate Republican legislation? I
think that's premature for me to say that. You know, I really don't know. I honestly think that, you know, I think that cooler heads are going to prevail here. I think at the end of the day, you know, people are going to sit back and say, exactly, the whole thing is one word to me. Why? Why are we doing this? Why in the world are we doing this? I mean, really and truly, if we have some great ideas that will make education better, and I would scold the union leaders if they didn't have an open mind to that. And I have confidence that they will. But if we have good ideas that'll make education better, then that's what we ought to be doing. But my gosh, living, why in the world create another food fight? Why do it over nothing? You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But again, I'll be respectful of the process. You know, I may not agree, but I'll be respectful of the process. And the other thing is, you needed to hear from me. Yes, sir.
When you promised in October that you would give the teachers their pay raises and all state employees, if this bill passes with or without your signature, have you kept that promise, even if there's some strings attached?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. You know what I would like to have happen? But I'm not the king. I'm the governor. You know, at the end of the day, we ought to all be big enough to know that we've got to compromise and we have to work together. That's the beauty of what democracy is all about. You know, at the end of the day, I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to get there in a situation where we'll all be happy. I don't see other hands.
Do you have anything you want to say to educators right now who feel like they're sort of in limbo?
All I can say is just this: there's not evil people here. I wouldn't say there's evil people, and I wouldn't pay much attention to the rah-rah people. But I can't necessarily speak for anybody except me in this than to just say this. From my standpoint, I would tell the educators that if it's a 7, and it was a 7 3 months ago, from my standpoint, it'll be a 7 today. You know, I don't tell anybody but the truth. I know what I did and I sent up was the right thing. And really and truly what I would do if I were the educators today is Enjoy the cheerleading contest, enjoy the ball game, enjoy your family, and everything's going to be fine. That's what I think. And that's the way it ought to be, because they're doing a heck of a job. I'm with them. I see them every day just about. They're doing a heck of a job. Can it be better? Of course it can be better. Of course it can be better. But I just don't think creating a fight or a dog's mess for the sake of creating a dog's mess to hit back. You see, I'm not into that. That's not me. I'm not into this hit back deal, just to be hitting back. I'm not into the game. I'm not into the game, you know, I don't like you because you're a Republican, or I don't like you because you're a Democrat. I'm not into that game. I am only here for one thing, and that's to get stuff done for our state. That's it. That's it. I'm not into the game. I don't even like the hitting at one another. And so at the end of the day, why are we doing this? Why? And a lot of us just hitting back at one another, and it's, now we can make it better, but for God's sakes, 11, let's get on with what we're doing.
By the way, what you just described there, would you describe the Senate's bill as it sits right now as a retaliation for what happened last year?
I don't think that. I don't really think that. Now, some of it probably is that, but I don't think that but to judge that bill in any way. You know, I think there's a legitimate philosophy on the Senate side that if we're going to give another 5% pay raise and we're going to do all this stuff good, there are things within the education arena that we need to improve upon, you know? And if they're real, now paycheck protection, I don't know what that improves upon, you know? I mean, this, you know, poison pill, this non-severability that, you know, if you know, at the end of the day, you know, if all this doesn't go through, you take the pill and everything dies, you know, I mean, really, that's a hit back to me, you know, and I don't agree with that. Yes, sir.
Governor, the first time the Senate declared a committee of the whole, they actually fielded testimony in committee from the governor. Is that something you're seeking to do tomorrow? Have you been offered that?
I don't know how to answer that because I don't know. I don't know. There was one other question. Somebody else had a question. Because I try, you know, when I've got time and everything to answer anybody and everybody, but let's know this. Sun's shining. Snow's falling a little bit. It's an incredible state. What we're talking about here isn't about us. It's not hitting back about us. It's nothing but one thing.